Askreddit Asks, teachers of Reddit, what are some positive trends you have noticed in today's youth?
As a general rule, they are more understanding and forgiving if somebody is different. Don't get me wrong, some of them are still dicks to those kids. But it is a shrinking minority. Edit. Wow. Most upvoted comment of the day. Reading the comments, it seems many of you agree. That can only be a good thing.
My GF is a teacher and she is amazed at how uncool drinking and driving is. Kids are like, that's stupid, you will kill someone.
They literally make fun of kids who do it. In my day everyone drove drunk.
Very positive change. Edit. For the 20,000 plus people saying my username doesn't check out, I'm going to have to ask you to do something risky and Google hard gay man.
If you don't want to do it,
you're missing out. Yahoo! Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Tilde tilde tilde. People who have hard gay in their lives are better for it.
High school teacher here. The most admirable quality of the rising generation is their ability to take anything, and I mean anything, and turn it into a meme. And quickly. My God.
A perfect example of this was the Etruscan boar ceramic meme.
They did surgery on a grape.
I am a teacher at a high school in Missouri. All of the stereotypes you see in rural high schools are still prevalent. However, almost every group works harder academically. It is no longer cool to get Fs and fail. Even country boys who will never leave the farm or go to college care about getting passing grades. 600 plus students in our HS, by the way.
It doesn't really surprise me about the country boys. Contrary to popular belief, farmers in the US actually have to be knowledgeable in several fields. Hey. Now, the older generation knows this and encourages their kids in school when their own parents didn't see the use of it.
Kindness. My college students are kind and supportive to one another most of the time.
I asked my wife, primary teacher, and she says empathy and adaptability are the two traits she has seen dramatically improve over her last 15 years. Kids seem to be better at putting themselves in another's position and understanding their situation. Also, they seem to be much more flexible with changes, whether in the classroom or the outside world. Spouse to a high school teacher. She had to say, they were born into the internet and social media. It is not something they had to learn. Also, as a result of which, they are also more self-reliant with research. And most importantly, contrary to the largest complaints, today's kids are extremely hard-working, and are less judgy of nerds, less judgmental in general.
My little sister, who is just 25, is a high school teacher and she says that being the smart, well-rounded kid is the cool thing. Being the asshole slacker isn't cool at all.
The majority of my students are in the 18 to 22 age range. I'm 37. For reference, students are far kinder than they ever were when I was a student. They go out of their way to help each other. And they are much less judgmental than my cohort was. For the most part, they are really polite and respectful. I know a lot of professors deal with problems from cell phones. But I find that if I tell them to use the phones respectfully and only for class purposes, they do. The only real problem I seem to have with this cohort is the constant headphone wearing. But I think that's a battle I'm just going to lose. Edit. Wow. My inbox. Thank you all for responding about how headphones help you in class. For what it's worth, I allow students who need them to use them, provided they are registered with disability services. I also allow them in lab classes. It just gets really frustrating in lectures for me to have to repeat instructions because students couldn't hear over their headphones. Or when someone is too busy rocking out to listen to the lecture. I'm going to have to think of some strategies to help those students who need them while still making sure they're not being disruptive or missing important stuff. Edit the second. I am truly, deeply sorry for my spelling error. I am leaving my very small mistake up as a badge of shame.
They are generally independent and self-reflective. When I first started teaching, I thought I had simply lucked out getting students who were consistently bright.
engaged and curious, but having now taught at 3 different universities on 2 different continents. It seems to be a general trend across universities. They are also, as noted elsewhere, generally kind and empathetic, and both my male and female students are usually pretty emotionally mature. The 8-year-olds I teach really make a huge deal about plastic. We watched the Blue Planet 2 episode with them, and since then they have been so mindful and really want to protect the oceans. As an environmental engineer, I can tell you that awareness is the single most powerful tool to give us a chance of a future. Keep doing your crucial job. Mate, my 11-year-old asked for reusable straws for Christmas. So yeah, they are definitely more fired up about protecting the environment than we are.
Kids are openly kind and loving regarding their parents. I had a tough football player day in class once. I love my mom. She's my best friend. Quote, I see the old, ugh my parents suck mentality falling by the wayside recently.
Yes, my 15-year-old daughter blew me a kiss and waved when I dropped her off for school today. I remembered when my mom dropped me off at school as a teen, and if she told me she loved me after I opened the door, I wouldn't say it back. I thought about that when my daughter did that and wondered if it's just because she loves me so much, or was I really that embarrassed to love my mom? Question mark. Lol. Girls ask boys out more often. Boys are starting to expect girls to be more frank and straightforward with what they want more often. Other than that, just like my colleagues. Generally kinder, more generous, understanding of differences, mature. On the other hand, I find them generally more sad, maybe more cynical, and overall quite happily pessimistic toward the future. A kind of aha we're so fucked vibe I feel sometimes. Edit. I got to say that I teach in France. It has its importance.
I worried about my son, who has mild autism, for the first 10 years of his life. I kept telling him that middle school would be hard. Kids would tease him, etc., and that high school would be even harder in the same respect. 15 years ago, I would have been right. Fast forward to now, and I'm constantly amazed and grateful for how well he is treated. Even these jock kids and big snotty idiot kids who would make perfect bullies are inclusive, kind, and even sometimes protective of my son. I've told all of them how appreciative I am, and even got a few of them Christmas presents this year. Love those kids. Edit. A few people are doing the math. My son is 11 and I'm 30. He's not in high school yet, but he will be there with the same kids he is in middle school with. So I feel confident about it. Edit 2. My first gold. I'm not even a teacher. Closing parenthesis.
The realization that any sort of specialization is a good thing and that a 4-year college isn't necessary for everyone. Lots of my students want to go to tech, trade school or apprenticeships. They're learning from my debt-laden generation. Edit to add, Jesus people, I don't welcome my kids to class every day and tell them that college is for chumps and to become an electrician. If a student tells me their goals and they can be well achieved through trade or vocational school, I encourage that. If a student tells me their goals and they need to go to university, then I encourage that.
Why be mean to each other when we're all getting fucked?
Only thing stressful is parking and the classes we absolutely don't study for. Either way, I'm chillin' my biscotto.
Honestly, it's unifying to have a shared villain. You see countries come together to rally around the flag during wartime. The difference is the shared villain is generational. Boomers are burning the house down behind them and there's a shared sense of we're going to have to rebuild it.
I teach on the college level. From what I can tell, many of them seem more open to having a variety of kind of friends. Where I teach has a big hookup and party culture, but they seem to have genuine cross-gender friendships despite that. And in my opinion, that's been good for them. Edit. I feel like I should specify, since this comment blew up, that this is dependent on who's available to you in terms of variety. For example, I went to a very racially diverse undergrad and had all kinds of friends. My students go to a very, very white college and do not have racial diversity in their friendships as a result. But I think a fair amount that is structural. I also feel kind of like the bad guy here. But it's interesting that men in fraternities came up. Because a lot of times they are the exception with my students. They'll really only hang out with their brothers. And depending on the fraternity, can be really awful to women.
They really get each other. As much as they diss on each other. Joke around. And yes, get to the point of blows. They can usually put issues aside. Sometimes to a fault, but overall they are pretty understanding of each other.
Coming from a senior in high school, this is the most accurate answer here. We are complete dicks to our friends and nice to strangers.
Agreed. Been teaching high school for 26 years. Students are much more accepting of differences. Much less overt homophobia. And the ones who would have been the least tolerant now keep their mouths shut. For the most part, bullying still occurs though. Also, I find students more willing to challenge perceived harassment.
Not a teacher, but I've noticed that a lot of children seem to be questioning authority rather than flat-out rebelling.
I wonder if that's actually any different. Or if we as the adult generation are now more accepting of questions. So we treat kids with more respect and actually answer questions? So instead of calling it rebellion, we call it curiosity? Edit. Wow, thanks for the gold. Never gotten that before. D.
As someone who is a youth of today, I've literally never seen bullying where I live. People are kind of dicks sometimes but not bullies.
I can agree. As I got older I noticed that kids don't bully as much. They just leave the people they don't like alone. When I was in high I didn't notice any bullying. All my issues had to do with me willingly being around the wrong people. Edit. I'm not saying bullying doesn't exist anymore. I'm just saying that it's decreasing. I was bullied until high school so I know what the different forms of bullying can be like. I was excluded and made fun of. When I got to high school, people just left people like me and others alone.
It doesn't really surprise me about the country boys. Contrary to popular belief, farmers in the US actually have to be knowledgeable in several fields. Hey. Now, the older generation knows this and encourages their kids in school when their own parents didn't see the use of it.
Students are not afraid to just be nice to each other.
I teach elementary art and it is so nice when a kid who is pretty unskilled in art show another kid their work.
And instead of getting laughed at like when I was in school, kids are just so sweet and will say things like, wow, I really love that.
I hear kids telling other kids,
I think your work is beautiful, or I really like your ideas.
And I just think of when I was in art, kids made fun of my work. In general, I really don't see kids being bullies as much as they were when I was a kid. I went to school in a really nice district too with few problems, but I was bullied.
Kids here have a much worse home life than kids at my old school, and while they could choose to take it out on others,
they don't.
Kids help each other too.
They know if a student is special, and will try to help that student out. They'll offer to walk them to the bathroom,
or help them with the drawing,
or very politely tell them to be careful with things.
This thread is dope. It's given me hella hope for the future.
This is definitely the most wholesome thread I've read in a while.
I wish Askreddit had more of these positive posts. I remember a lovely one a few weeks ago about the moment when you knew that your partner was the one, and it was really nice. There's not many though.
And quickly. My God.
Meme culture is basically just clothing, fashion on hyperdrive. It takes an entire season for the latest in clothing to change. That time frame turns into weeks for memes. Sometimes days.
Shit. Do you know the way? Stopped being funny within hours.
Even fashion is changing faster now. Big companies come out with new lines of clothing every 2 to 4 weeks now.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to support the channel, and above all, have an excellent day you amazing people.